the kindest of strangers. The morning snow fell gently outside Miller's diner, each flake catching the warm light that spilled through the large windows. Emma Rodriguez wiped down the counter for the third time, her movements automatic after 2 years of working the breakfast shift. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the diner's standard uniform, a white button-down shirt and red apron that had seen countless spills and long days. In the corner booth, 3-year-old Tyler sat quietly, his curly hair catching the overhead light as he colored in a well-worn activity book. He wore his favorite blue sweater, the one Emma had found at a thrift store last month. It was a little big, but it would last him through the winter. Tyler had learned to be patient during Emma's shifts, content with his crayons and the occasional glass of milk that the kind cook, Mrs. Patterson, would sneak him. The diner was unusually quiet for a Tuesday morning. The regular customers had already come and gone, the construction workers grabbing coffee before their shifts, the office workers picking up breakfast sandwiches on their way downtown. Now, at nearly 10 o'clock, the place had settled into its mid-morning lull. Emma glanced at Tyler, who was carefully coloring within the lines of a cartoon elephant. She felt the familiar tug of guilt in her chest. Other 3-year-olds were in preschool, learning songs and making friends. But daycare costs more than Emma made in tips, and her mother was too far away to help. So Tyler spent his mornings here, in this little diner that smelled of coffee and bacon, learning patience and quiet observation. The bell above the door chimed, and Emma looked up to see an elderly man shuffling in from the cold. He was probably in his 70s, wearing a thin gray cardigan that looked like it had been well loved for many years. His white hair was damp from the snow, and his hands shook slightly as he made his way to a table near the window. Something about him caught Emma's attention. Maybe it was the way he moved so carefully, or the fact that his clothes, while clean, looked worn and patched in places. He sat down heavily and pulled a small wallet from his pocket, counting the bills inside with deliberate slowness. Emma approached his table with her notepad ready. "Good morning," she said warmly. "What can I get started for you today?" The man looked up at her with kind, tired eyes. "Coffee, please," he said quietly. "Just coffee." Emma hesitated. She had worked at Miller's long enough to recognize the signs, the careful way he counted his money, the single-item order, the slight shake in his hands that spoke of hunger as much as age. "Are you sure that's all?" she asked gently. "We have some really good oatmeal this morning, and our eggs are fresh from Murphy's farm just outside town." The man shook his head with a small smile. "Coffee's perfect, thank you." Emma poured his coffee and set it down, but something inside her wouldn't let her walk away. She had been where this man was counting every dollar, choosing between groceries and heat, making one meal stretch for two. She knew what it felt like to be proud and hungry at the same time. "You know what?" she said, as if the idea had just occurred to her. "The cook made way too much breakfast this morning. There's going to be waste if someone doesn't eat it. Would you mind helping us out?" The man's eyes filled with understanding, and for a moment, Emma thought he might refuse. Pride was a powerful thing, and she respected that. But then his stomach gave a small, audible rumble, and he nodded slowly. "That would be very kind," he said softly. Emma hurried to the kitchen and loaded a plate with scrambled eggs, bacon toast, and a small bowl of oatmeal with brown sugar. She added a glass of orange juice and brought it all to his table, setting it down with a smile. "Thank you," the man said, and Emma could hear the emotion in his voice as he ate. Emma found reasons to stay nearby, wiping tables that were already clean, refilling the sugar dispensers, checking on Tyler, who was now working on a picture of a house with a smoking chimney. She watched the elderly man savor each bite, eating slowly and deliberately, as if he wanted to make the meal last as long as possible. "Mama," Tyler whispered, holding up his drawing. "I made a house for the nice man." Emma glanced over at the elderly gentleman, who had overheard. His face lit up with genuine delight. "That's a beautiful house," he called over to Tyler. "Is that your family in the front yard?" Tyler nodded enthusiastically and walked over to show his drawing more closely. The man studied it with the same attention he might give to a masterpiece in a museum. "This is me and Mama," Tyler explained, pointing to the stick figures. "And this could be you, if you want. Mama says everyone needs family." The man's eyes grew misty. "That's very thoughtful of you, young man. What's your name?" "Tyler Rodriguez. What's yours?" "I'm Harold Chen," the man replied, extending his hand for a formal handshake. "It's very nice to meet you, Tyler Rodriguez." Emma smiled at the gentle interaction. There was something dignified about Harold, something that spoke of education and refinement despite his current circumstances. She wondered about his story, what had brought him to a diner on this snowy morning, counting coins for a cup of coffee. Harold finished his breakfast and sat back with a contented sigh. "That was the best meal I've had in a long time," he told Emma. "You have a very kind heart." "My dear, we all need help sometimes," Emma replied simply. Harold nodded and stood up slowly, leaving a $5 bill on the table, probably most of what he had. "For the coffee," he said with dignity. After he left, Emma couldn't stop thinking about him. She found herself watching the window, hoping to see him again, wondering if he had somewhere warm to go. 3 hours later, the diner door opened again, but this time it was a man in an expensive dark suit. He was tall, with neatly styled black hair and the confident bearing of someone used to being in charge. Emma recognized him immediately, though she had never spoken to him. Marcus Chen, the CEO of Chen Technologies, whose company employed half the town. He looked around the diner with careful eyes, then approached the counter where Emma was working. "Excuse me," he said, his voice carrying a mixture of anxiety and hope. "I'm looking for my father. Someone at the community center said they saw him come this way. His name is Harold Chen. He's elderly, probably wearing a gray cardigan." Emma's heart stopped. "Your father?" "Yes, he's been missing since yesterday. He has dementia, and sometimes he wanders." Marcus's professional composure cracked slightly. "I've been searching everywhere." Emma felt a wave of understanding wash over her, the gentle dignity, the careful movements, the confusion she had sensed beneath. Harold's kindness had all made sense now. "He was here this morning," she said gently. "He seemed lost, hungry. I gave him breakfast." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "You fed him?" "Of course I did." For a moment, Marcus couldn't speak. Then he said, "Do you know where he went?" Emma shook her head, but then Tyler piped up from his corner booth. "The nice man said he was going to the park to watch the ducks. He liked my drawing." Marcus turned to look at Tyler with wonder. "He talked to your son?" "Harold was very sweet with him," Emma said. Tyler drew him a picture of a house, said everyone needs family. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with new resolve. "I have to find him." "The park, you said?" "Riverside Park, probably. It's only 2 blocks away." Marcus started toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "What's your name?" "Emma Rodriguez." "Emma, I don't know how to thank you. You showed my father kindness when he needed it most. You treated him with dignity." Emma felt tears in her own eyes. "He's a lovely man. I could tell he was someone special." "He is," Marcus said quietly. "He was a professor for 40 years, taught literature at the university, the smartest, kindest man I know. This disease, it's stealing him from me. But today, you gave him back some of his humanity." After Marcus left to find his father, Emma sat down next to Tyler, who was adding more details to his house drawing. "Mama, why are you crying?" Tyler asked. Emma wiped her eyes and smiled. "Because sometimes, when we help others, we help ourselves too. And sometimes, when we show kindness to strangers, we discover they're not strangers at all, they're family." Later that evening, Emma found an envelope slipped under her apartment door. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a note that read, "Thank you for seeing my father as a human being worthy of kindness. You have no idea what your compassion meant to our family. Please accept this small token of our gratitude. Marcus Chen. P.S. Tyler's drawing is now hanging in my office. It reminds me every day what really matters." Emma held the note to her chest and looked over at Tyler, who was playing quietly with his toys. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest changes. And sometimes, helping a stranger means helping yourself find hope again.